and start to formulate that. And then after we've gone down the line, when the time comes to hear from you, please raise your hand and we'll go to you. We just ask that it be a question. If it could be succinct, short, that'd be great. Not a speech, and I'll do my best not to do that myself. Okay? Is everybody clear on the instructions? Y'all all right? Everybody good?
Yeah.
Take it, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. We're all good. All right, let's go with it. So if you will, I'll start on my left, your right. Go for it.
John Alford from Congressman Brad Sherman's office. 3 words would be justice, equity, and progress.
Yes. You think you have 2 minutes?
I got 2 minutes.
Oh, sure.
We want to say Congressman has a lifetime record of 100% from the NAACP. He's also got 100% lifetime record scorecard from the Human Rights Campaign, Planned Parenthood, AFL-CIO, and Sierra Club. Congressman is co-sponsor of Medicare for All, the Green New Deal. He was the first member of Congress to introduce articles of impeachment for Donald Trump. The congressman is a supporter of the John Lewis Voting Rights Amendment Act, which would help suppress efforts, which would help, combat voter suppression efforts. He's a co-sponsor of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. This would hold police accountable and try to help end racial profiling. He's a co-sponsor of the Erica Garner Excessive Use of Force Prevention Act, which would prevent members of the police force from using chokeholds or any hold that puts pressure on someone's neck. So that's just some of what the congressman's doing, and I'll leave the other candidates to talk about it.
Right. Let's give him a hand. Thank you very much. Next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie Gutierrez, and I'm running for judge in seat 130. And if there's 3 words that would represent my campaign, it would be transparency, equality, and fairness. And I talk about transparency. I believe that it's very important for people who come to court to be given a fair shot. But I also think it's important for when people come to court to have a bench officer that is receptive, someone who is going to explain their ruling in a manner that is easily understandable for the people who are before the judge. Because even though something may not go that person's way, if you're treated with respect, with fairness, with equality, and if you're transparent, then that person will feel like they were heard, that they have a stake in the community, and they'll feel that they were given a fair shot in life. And why it's important to me, I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States because I was the victim of anti-Semitism in my home country. I know what it's like not to be treated fairly, and I know how it feels and the pain that you have when people treat you differently. And my mission is to treat everyone with respect. And I hope that you'll consider me. Thank you.
Fantastic. If you would, I know we have one that stepped away, and we'll come right to you shortly.
I'm Tracy Blunt, and I am running for judge of the Superior Court seat 137. I grew up in the Altadena, Pasadena area. I work for County Counsel's office. A lot of people don't know what LA County Counsel's office is. We represent the County of LA and its departments, the public guardian, the public administrator, public works. So we represent the county. I represent the Department of Children and Family Services. I make sure that if a social worker needs to remove a child from their home because there's a risk in the home, that it's for a good reason and not just because. I've been in dependency court. I have been in dependency court, trial court for about 12 years. And of course, as with most courts, unfortunately, Black and brown are overrepresented in court where we're not represented in the community. So we have to make sure that there's a fair and balanced system in all the courts. I want to be a judge because I want to serve. I've been a government attorney for my entire career. I am now at the warrant desk, which is kind of the very beginning of a case. I have been in doing appeals. I serve on the mandated reporter to community supporter task force. Okay, so 137, Tracy Blunt, I hope you will consider me. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Georgia Huerta, and I'm running for judge in seat 135. I think the three words that would describe me and me now and as a judge would be integrity, experience, and compassion. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles on 104th and Broadway with my mother and 6 other siblings. So I got to see firsthand the struggles within my community, the struggles of Black poor people in my community. And as a result of that, I decided to become a deputy district attorney because I realized that the deputy district attorney had the power, if they chose to use it, to do the right thing, to treat everyone fairly and equally and with respect. And I knew I would do that because I had experienced that not happening to me, to my friends and people in my family. I have the experience to serve my community, and I have been serving my community for 30 years and will continue to serve it. I am a deputy district attorney. I work hard, but I work hard to do the right thing. I've tried over 80 cases, different kinds of cases, not the same kind of cases. I've been in our alternative sentencing court. That's about rehabilitation and treatment, something that we need to be open-minded about. Not every situation deserves to go to jail. So we need to be able to provide treatment and rehabilitation. I was in that unit for 3 years in that court. So I know how to do that. And I have compassion. Who comes into our court except for Black and brown people? I can't not but have compassion for them. As I stated, I've had family members, one family member who suffered from drug addiction. It's the pain that affects the whole family. Imprisonment that affects the whole family. So I have served my community and will continue to serve it. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Milton. 3 words: transparent, fair-minded, and most experienced. I've been a lawyer for 45 years, a judge for 24 years, a prosecutor for 12 years. I've handled some of the most difficult cases you can handle in any jurisdiction in the entire country, state, or federal. I was born in Pasadena, but my parents moved to Indianapolis when I was an infant. During the 60s, our country was racially tense. I suffered those indignities during that time, but I was also raised in a Judeo-Christian family. The combination of those things, being raised in that family and suffering those indignities, made me a person who's strong, with integrity and fair-minded. And I have always had a sense of, I just cannot tolerate injustices. And I think this is what has led me to do the work that I did for all those years, 36 years in public service. Like I said, 24 as a judge of the Superior Court and 12 as a prosecutor. I'm transparent, and I won't hide this. I wrote 2 death penalty bills. I was able to achieve 2 death verdicts as a prosecutor, and I sentenced a man to death. These are the things that I was duty bound to do. And if you looked at the case, if you went to my website, you would see and probably agree that I was duty bound to do that. And I would never treat anybody unfairly under any circumstances. If you go to my platform, you will see #1 on my platform at miltonforda.com. Hate crimes. #1 is on my platform.
Good evening. My name is Craig Mitchell. I'm a Superior Court judge, but more importantly, before that, I began my career in South Los Angeles teaching high school. I was a high school teacher for 17 years. 15 years of that teaching experience, 10 years was at Sarah High School, which was an all-Black boys Catholic high school. The next 5 years was at Crenshaw's Continuation School, where I taught primarily rolling 60 gang members. I share that information with you based on what you wanted to hear, my connections to the Black community. In the course of teaching, what have you, I was also introduced to my wife, who is Black. We have been married 39 years. We have 3 children. One is a lawyer, one is a teacher, and one is a marriage and family therapist who actually is responsible for the Salk Institute's Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity program. So I get it. Also, for the last 13 years, many of you may know me, I founded the Skid Row Running Club. I understand because I am on, where was I this morning? Today is Monday. At 5 o'clock this morning, I was on Skid Row. I understand the disproportionate number of people who are on Skid Row, suffering from addiction and mental illness and the other circumstances that land them on Skid Row. Obviously, Black people are disproportionately represented. The last thing that I want to say, don't take my word for it. This gentleman here in the clerical collar, you've seen me in court over many, many years, correct?
Yes, sir.
Follow up and ask him what he thinks of me in my term of being fair. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Dan Kapelovitz, and I am the only criminal defense attorney that's running for district attorney. And I actually think he's endorsing me. Is that correct? I don't think I'm. But anyway, so I am appointed by the courts to represent indigent defendants. I'm also appointed to represent victims and witnesses to protect their Fifth Amendment rights, usually if they don't incriminate themselves. So I'm the only one who actually is appointed to represent victims. Compton is one of the courts I do. 100% of my clients are Black. Airport is another one. My clients are 99% Black or other people of color. And the same goes with Van Nuys and San Fernando, which is one of my courts, which is bizarro land. It is the worst courthouse in the county here. And you gotta, I can't believe it. That's one of the reasons I'm running is to expose that courthouse. It is the worst. The worst judges, the worst prosecutors, they are rogue. Gascon has no control over that courthouse. It is insane. So, like I say, I will never, well, the 3 words, get the 3 words: justice, equality, and liberty. So I want to end mass incarceration. It's insane that we have the highest incarceration rate in the world, even higher than China, who has over 1 billion people. That is crazy. I also want to reduce crime by preventing it in the first place, by getting people into programs, mental health programs, drug programs. All right. And I want to fight for rights. Luckily, there is a new law called the Racial Justice Act, and the current DA often is fighting against it. I had a case where the DA said these 4 Black men had no right to be in an affluent neighborhood at night. And that was outrageous. And that's just one example of thousands.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. I think 3 words that describe me and my platform are trustworthy, proportional justice, and empowerment. My name is John McKinney. I'm running for district attorney because I believe I have something to offer that's new, different, and special, especially for the Black community. I grew up in a low-income, high-crime neighborhood. I don't remember the touch of my mother's face because she died when I was 2 years old. A few years later, the giant in my life, my dad, also passed away. I was raised by my sister, a Black female raising 5 children on her own in the 70s and 80s on a high school diploma. I came of age during the crack cocaine epidemic, and a lot of people here will remember what that was like, especially for teenage Black men who had to choose every day whether to take that path to the corner or take a different path. I chose a different path. I put myself through college. I did so well, I had an opportunity to attend the UCLA School of Law, and that's what brought me west. I have that lived experience that no other candidate for district attorney in this race has or has ever had in the 170-year history of the DA's office. It's particularly important to the Black community to have somebody like me, who knows that African Americans and Latinos make up 70% of the crime victims in Los Angeles. We make up 87% of the homicide victims. Black women make up 33% of all female homicide victims, despite being only 4% of the population. So my platform, among other things, is fairness, proportionality in charging and sentencing, and also empowerment. We got to pull back the curtain on the criminal justice system and give the community a seat at the table so they know what's going on and can advise the DA. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Judge Deborah Archuleta. My 3 words are domestic violence survivor. When I was 19, I was attacked by a boyfriend. When I was 21, I had brain surgery. I made a commitment to God after that I would go to law school and work on behalf of other victims of domestic violence, sexual abuse, and violent and serious crimes. I worked as a legal secretary. I put myself through community college, UC Irvine, and law school at night and on the weekends. I served as a deputy district attorney for 26 years. I've been an elected Superior Court judge for the last 7. My pastor is here tonight, Reverend John Cager. I've been endorsed by the Honorable Diane Watson. I've been a longtime member of the Ward AME Church. I am a longtime member of NAACP, the National Association of Equal Justice in America. I do not tolerate hate. We were asked what we are going to do for the Black community. I am here to tell you that I'm the only district attorney that talks about having monthly community engagement meetings where members of the community, the ministry, community leaders, small business owners come into my office and have Subway sandwiches and Diet Cokes so we can work together to solve the problems that are plaguing our community. For the last 3.5 years, I proudly served in dependency court. Every single child that came into my court was usually Black or often brown. There was vast overrepresentation of children in the Black community in my court. I was removing 10 to 15 babies a week at birth from their mother because they had fentanyl and methamphetamine in their system. I was removing children from Black homes every single day because of domestic violence, drug abuse, and mental health issues, and that parents couldn't support their children properly and they were being neglected. So I am the candidate that understands what it's like to be fully enmeshed in the Black community, and I'm here for you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Mack. I'm running for Judicial Office 135. My 3 words are fairness, justice, and gratitude. I have deep gratitude to the Black community because it is the community that welcomed my family. My parents were refugees of the Vietnam War. They came over as boat people to a refugee camp and got sponsored to the United States. Our first home was in South Central LA, off of Martin Luther King and Western. There are not many refugees that live in South Central LA. There's the Black community that welcomed us. I went to school at a school called Martin Luther King Elementary. There's the Black community that taught me English. There's the Black community that told me about what America and the views of our world is like. I joined the U.S. Army. The reason why I joined the U.S. Army is because a service member sponsored us to the United States. I became commissioned as a military intelligence officer. It's through that service that I learned more about the Black community. It was the civil rights movement that changed the views of the Vietnam War in America. Through that change, it changed the immigration policy that allowed refugees to come to the country that welcomed my family. I have great gratitude to this community. It's my service that reflects that. I know that the Black community is a driving force that changes our country so that it welcomes the weak, the poor, and the innocent. I bring that experience and will do that as a judge for the Superior Court. I'm endorsed by the LA Times, the Democrats all around the county. I'm endorsed by Maxine Waters. I sat with her on Super Bowl Sunday and explained to her who I was. And that's how I earned her endorsement. And I hope to earn yours. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Berg, and I'm running for judge at Los Angeles County Superior Court, seat 137. My 3 words are, I'm going to play on this, and not really the word, but multiple words. mental health, police accountability, and following the law. As a criminal defense attorney for the past 17 plus years, I represent people charged with crimes, and I also represent victims of crimes. And as a defense attorney, I'm a big supporter of mental health and mental health diversion. There are judges now denying these motions with scripts in hand, just so they don't get reversed. I don't see the reason why they feel like they need to punish people with mental health problems. Because if they fall out of mental health diversion, they're back in the same position that they were always in. I believe in holding police accountable. As a criminal defense attorney, I filed motions to suppress evidence all the time on my cases. And even when I don't even have an opposition from the prosecutor, it's just me arguing with the judge. And then they don't address any of the case law I say or any of the points I make. I had one judge, it still stings, tell me, not even close, counselor. And they never addressed anything I brought up. The law was clearly on my side. And it's not just me, this is all criminal defense attorneys. And what this causes is a downward spiral of police conduct. Because when that officer or the hundreds of other ones that I filed say, oh, the judge said that was fine. Now that's their standard. And then they take it one step lower. And they go one step lower and one step lower until we have what the Supreme Court said, that police officers don't need to know the law. They only have to be reasonable in their interpretation of the law.
26.
You and I and all of us here have to know all the laws under penalty of fine or imprisonment. And as a judge, I believe in holding the law. So if there's a case before me, you have to do what the law says, not some feeling of denying these motions because you feel like justice isn't being accomplished. Thank you very much.
Let's take another moment to thank all the candidates. We have two more candidates, got 3 words, you may have heard them already, those 3 words, and then, we'll be the. You would right where you are, in fairness to everyone else.
I'm sure so. Hello, my name is Christmas Brookins. I'm running for judge of the Superior Court in seat 115. My 3 words are diversity, inclusivity, and empowerment. I believe in diversity of lived experience. I grew up in New York, but I grew up as a foster youth. And as a newborn, I was labeled unadoptable because I was African-American and I was female. By the time I hit 5, I was labeled hard to place, which is now considered too old to be adopted. So as a result, when I finally did get adopted at 12 years old, I ended up getting adopted by a family that had mental health issues and addiction and often engaged in a violent tendency. As a result, at 16, I left New York, everything and everyone I knew behind, and came here to California. And I made California my home. I believe in not reducing people to a page in a book, that we must include everyone into the system. That include those people that are accused of a crime and those people who are harmed by a crime. Because I was raised by someone who had mental health issues, I believe in not stigmatizing it, but I also know what it's like to be a victim when someone has an episode and that you don't want to call the police, but you have no choice, and then you feel guilty for doing it. That's what I bring to my work. I believe in giving people opportunities like I had when I eventually was able to join the Navy, become an aviation electronics tech, and then a Mandarin Chinese linguist. That enabled me to transfer to UC Berkeley and the Pepperdine School of Law and become a DA at 27. Glasser once wrote that the ultimate use of power is to empower others. And that is what our community needs, to be empowered. And that's the type of judge I seek to be. I'm endorsed by the LA Times, LACDP, Black, Los Angeles Youth Democrats, and Maxine Waters, and a host of other Democratic parties. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to apologize for being late. That traffic was horrible, but my 3 words are balance, integrity, and respect. I am Sharon Ransom. I'm running for Superior Court Judge in seat 97, Judge Mitchell's old seat. And I'm running because I believe in diversity and inclusivity. A little bit about my background as far as the Black community. I was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. I was raised by a single mother. I became a single mother at the age of 21. I attended LAUSD schools. I'm a true Angelino. I attended all schooling in Los Angeles County. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 30. I didn't become an attorney until I was almost 40. I worked, full-time, raised my daughter, and went to law school part-time. And that shows you that I have a lot of, resilience, and that's what it takes to be a judicial candidate here. I am currently a deputy district attorney for the last 19 years, assigned to mental health. And in mental health, we focus on treatment rather than incarceration. I also participate in Project Leads, where I teach the fifth graders in the community about the criminal justice system and the importance of making good life choices. I've also been involved in teen court, and that's another program in underprivileged schools where a person gets in trouble as a teenager and they go through our program, they get their case dismissed and sealed. And I do this because I believe our children, our youth, need to have a chance. I try to keep them out of the system that's so hard to get out of once they're in it, so that they can have a chance at a future and not be labeled and tagged as a felon or a convict, unable to get benefits, housing, jobs and things of that nature. I've been endorsed by the LA Times, Maxine Waters, the LA Sentinel, a host of Democratic clubs, and I hope to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank each of the candidates for presenting. We hope that you're formulating your questions and have them ready. We want to take time now to acknowledge those who put their hands together to put this event together, and I want to thank Maria Skelton and her effort. And all those who are on the NAACP committee who helped to organize this, would you please stand so we can acknowledge you? If you're here, all right. Hope you're able to see. We're here at Parks Chapel AME Church, members of Parks Chapel, along with your pastor. If you're able, please stand and we can acknowledge you. And thank you for hosting us. And on behalf of the San Fernando National Panhellenic Council, Historically Black Fraternities and Sororities, members of the D9, Divine Nine, would you stand? Give your hand. So in a moment, we'll field your questions. I would ask that if you have a question, if you're able, raise your hand and we'll take obviously turns. If you're able to stand and present your question either to a specific candidate or if a general question. This is a conversation, as Reverend Thomas mentioned. With our time, we want to make sure we're flowing. And then obviously, those of you here and responding to them, we just ask that we show grace to each other. So this wouldn't be the time for that 30, 40 minute sermon, that kind of thing. All right. So that being said, we're glad that you're here.
What are some of the names of the candidates?
Oh, great question. If you would, the question was, we need to know the names of the candidates. When you answer the question, would you just share your name? Hey, my name is, and then present your answer. Is that fair? Would that be good? All right. I'm sorry.
You can just point to me, so the guy at the glass.
There, the suggestion was, if you have a question for the gentleman with the glasses, just say, hey, you, all right? That's- There you go. Prepared. There you go. All right, prepared.
Girl Scouts in the house.
All right. Now, this is good. Everybody's comfortable. Y'all ready for some questions?
Yeah.
Now, again, just, if you have your questions, raise your hand. Viviana, feel free to start off. Let's see a question right there. Okay, we have 1, 2. Okay.
Thank you. Viviana Beaupre, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, the Links Incorporated, 57 years in Pacoima, my family, so I'm only 58. But I heard one candidate talk, and 30 years as a LAUSD school psychologist right here in the Valley. I heard one candidate talk about a solution that addresses teens. I am seeing the preschool to prison pipeline every day. What do you do in your capacity to address community issues? Because that's what's going to get to solutions instead of when the child or the family comes to your court.
Is that directed to a particular candidate or a general?
Anyone that did not talk about teen work.
Okay. All right, we have the first one response here. If there are others, if you would, alert me with your hand. You begin.
Georgia Huerta, seat 135 to judge. What I do is that I'm very involved with my church within my community. My church is located in South Central Los Angeles, and we have several ministries that I'm involved in where one of those ministries is that once a member gets in the 9th grade, we start helping them with the A through G requirements for school. We encourage them to go to Black college fairs when it's over at the convention center. We have a homework center because you need to start helping them when they're young, before they get 18 years old. We have, at our church, we also have a ministry for younger children in middle school. And that ministry is directed in helping get them prepared to deal with the social pressures that they're beginning to experience in making good decisions about what to do and not to do. So I'm involved in helping the youth through my church outside of my job.
Thank you very much. As we move on from here, if you would hold the applause, we're going with 30 seconds each. I know that's condensed. We have your hands and then we have yours. Go right ahead, introduce yourself, go for it.
Thank you. Again, my name is Craig Mitchell. I shared with you that I was a high school teacher for 17 years. I understand that if you equip young people with the skills they need to succeed at the college level, that is the best insurance that they are not going to end up in the criminal justice system. And that's what I did at Sarah High School. And that's we fed into Berkeley, to Yale, to Stanford. And these were kids who largely came from South Los Angeles, many from single parent families.
Thank you very much. We have a response here, we have one here, and then you're next. So 1, 2, 3.
And again, my name is Leslie Gutierrez. I'm running for judge in City 130. I've participated as chair in team sports throughout my career, but also Project Lead. And Project Lead is an educational program, as Sharon has mentioned, for 5th graders. The reason why I go into the school is not to tell children about their curriculum. Anybody can teach them that. But I feel that coming from a different country, having an accent, not having had money, I know how intimidating it is to have to borrow $100,000 to go to law school. I worked during law school. I put myself through law school on my own. I go to this school to tell the kids that they can do it too, because I want to empower them through my example. That's why I do it.
Thank you.
I think the question was about preschoolers. Exactly. Okay, thank you. Preschools, this is the age that we need to get the children into after-school programs, mentoring programs, because through our church that I'm a proud member of Board AME, and also within the community. In the dependency court system, I would work diligently every single day to try to get the kids into counseling if they needed it, preschool learning programs, etc. Because if we don't get the kids in preschool and elementary school, my husband's a retired music teacher, it's too late.
Thank you so much. Okay. We had a hand here and then here.
And
Okay, so that's.
All right, I'll go.
There you go. 1, 2, and 3.
All right, this isn't so much about preschool, but it's preschool to prison, so it encompasses everything. Okay. So for one thing, I am the only candidate that will never try a juvenile as an adult. Because even they say, well, what if they're 17 and it's a heinous crime and they're a day away. Well, you know, the studies have shown that people's brains do not mature until about 25, 26. That's why we luckily have some laws for youth offenders, but we do not need to put minors, try them as adults. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What's your name?
Oh, Dan Kapelovitz.
We have the next one here, there, so then we right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're on the fly, just like your board.
I'm Tracy Blunt. I just wanted to quickly say I work in the dependency system, as I stated. I'm also on the Black Women Lawyers Association, and I'm the education co-chair. And part of my task is to reach out to the youth to let them know what they can be, like Leslie said, to expose youth early on so they know that there's somewhere I can be. It doesn't have to be a lawyer. It can be a social worker. It can be a legal secretary. It can be something else. If you give that example to them, then they can see what they can be.
Thank you. All right, your name again?
Tracy Blunt.
Again, my name is John McKinney. I can only really lean on my own life experience as a Black boy and as a young man coming of age in this country. And what I needed at that time was I needed structure in my life. I needed discipline. I needed information. I needed high expectations, and that's what got me through. As district attorney, I won't be able to deliver that to preschoolers, but I can focus on the fifth grade boys and girls, but especially our boys that you heard about earlier through this Project Lead program. I have an idea for such a program. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Christmas Perkins, seat 115. I think out of everyone that is sitting up here, I was the only one that was actually a client of the dependency court. So I've been through the system. And I understand your question, and all I have to say, it kind of encompasses what Mr. McKinney responded, resources. That's what I needed as a kid. And so when I'm out there, I've worked with Saturday Scholars, I've worked with Project Lead. I'm out there trying to find as much resources as I can, because you can't even give that to preschoolers. That's what we need. Not everyone has parents, not everyone has a support system at home. That's what we need to focus on.
Thank you so much. Sure.
So I'm here for Congressman Brad Sherman. My name is John Alford. 3 years ago, Congress brought back earmarks, which allows individual members to identify worthy projects in their district. Year over year, 3 years in a row, the congressman has supported the Boys and Girls Club after school programs to support students. He also supported the American Rescue Plan, which put $130 billion directly into schools reopening after COVID, and he supported the child tax credit.
Thank you so much. We had a second question. Go right ahead, sir.
28-year Valley resident, 61-year African American.
My pass number 10.
Let me thank all of you all for coming out. It speaks to our community who does not come out. For the district attorney candidates, Black Vote Oversubscribed will be the #2 voting block in 2024 in LA County. All the polling shows that the #1 concern for the Black community in the DA's race is criminal justice reform. In 30 seconds, what criminal justice reforms will you initiate as DA that will speak to the Black community?
Question. Sir.
All right, I'm Dan Kapelovitz, and as I said, I'm the only criminal defense attorney. I know what's really going on in the courts. I have more trial experience than everyone combined since Gascon has taken office. Gascon came in, he had great directives, well thought out. I might disagree slightly with wording or certain things and add other ones, but he can't get it done. I can get it done. I'm more progressive, more into reform and to criminal justice than Gascon, and I can get it done because I work with deputy district attorneys every day. I'm going to hire the 250 or 300 that are missing, and they're going to be justice-oriented reformers. Thank you.
Okay, go right ahead.
Once again,
After these responses, we'll go to questions, if you would.
once again, Judge Deborah Archuleta. The criminal justice reforms that I intend to implement when I'm elected is individualized justice. The blanket policies that George Gascon has implemented disproportionately affect certain members of the Black community. We cannot hand out justice on blanket policies. Additionally, we need a balancing act. There's scales of justice for a reason. We need to balance mass incarceration with mass victimization, particularly within the Black community. So this is one of the things that I intend to work on with community engagement upon my election.
Thank you, Tom. We have another response?
Yeah. Criminal justice reform, as you know, Pastor, is just a concept until you give it meaning. The devil is in the details. I believe in proportional justice. It's similar to what Judge Archuleta said, which is the criminal justice system can't have these blanket policies, one size fits all policies, or categorical prosecutions. Every person, every crime is unique. Each individual and each crime has to be assessed that way. So I believe in that. That would probably be the major reform I implement. But bail is also a problem, and our bail system needs to be reformed.
Craig Mitchell, running for district attorney. So much of the crime that plagues our communities is rooted in addiction. And until we seriously address addiction in the criminal justice system, that crime will continue. My policy as a judge, when I look at a rap sheet, I try and identify, does this person have an addiction problem? And if they do, can we get them into treatment? And what we must make certain is that the treatment is effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other responses to the question that was posed? All right, we'll move on to the next question. We had a hand? Yes. We had a hand? Yes, please, feel free, state nice and loud the question.
My name is Mark Chavez, and I'm from Los Angeles County. I have a brother who was wrongfully convicted for a crime that he didn't commit in 1997. So my question is to the DAs and judges, what would you guys do to help factually innocent people? Because right now, Tax Court's office has over 100 cases that get accepted for factual innocence, but they're very limited in their prosecutors. They have several prosecutors and about one investigator. We've been accepted by them March 2021, but we have gotten like barely any progress.
Did you hear the question? Okay, is there a response for the candidates for judgeship? Oh, I'm sorry, DAs, I'm terribly sorry. Okay. Okay, who would like to respond? Unless you raise your hand, I will know, but feel free, we have 1, 2.
Hi, I'm Judge David Milton, retired. 45 years as a lawyer. If I were to become I know how that office ought to work. I was in that office for a number of years and handled the most serious cases you can handle. If it were brought to my attention in my administration that there's someone who's factually innocent, I want to hear about it. There's no way that I would tolerate anyone being in prison for something that they did not do.
Thank you. There another response? Go right ahead.
Hi, Dan Kapelovitz, and yes, like you said, we need more resources. That's why I want to fill the vacancies, get hundreds of new lawyers. We can put more resources into getting factually innocent people out of prison. I was shocked by how many cases I get where my client's factually innocent. Most of them are Black. You just look at the video, you see they're factually innocent. I had a case, there's a Black man in Compton. It was so obvious by the video. I said to the DA, have you watched the video? Like, well, it's not a slam dunk. I go, I'll burn my bar card if we lose this trial. And of course we won it. We got to prevent innocent people from going to prison in the first place.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, go right ahead.
Georgia Ward to seat 135. As a judge, the information has to be brought to you. We can't go out and do our own investigation regarding factual innocence. But once a case is brought to, at least would be brought to me as a judge, I would be open to review all the facts and apply the laws, the new laws. We have a lot of new laws now that we did not have 5 or 10 years ago that can address those issues. But as a judge, I can't go out and do a factual investigation regarding innocence.
Thank you. We have another response.
Christmas Brookins, seat 115. I am a calendar DA in Department 23 in Long Beach, California. And as a calendar DA, I do resentencing. I do this very thing that you're asking for. And I can tell you, we are overwhelmed. It is just me. And I get 16 motions a day. And I still have to handle a calendar, trials, other post-conviction motions. We need more bodies. We need resources. As a judge, I do not make policy or legislation. So I need to make sure those resources are brought to me.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 3 more responses, 1, 2, and 3. Right ahead.
The district attorney's office is down 200 prosecutors under George Gascon.
Please be
If you fill,
Go ahead.
if you fill those positions, they need to be reallocated so that the unit is able to respond in a timely manner to the circumstance that affects your brother. And I pledge to do that. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Mack. I'm running for Judicial Office 135. I'm not a career prosecutor. My first job in the U.S. Army was as a defense attorney defending soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. Our main duty was to zealously advocate for our clients. And my main concern all the time was ensure that an innocent person did not suffer consequences. I would empower the defense attorneys, public defenders, alternate public defenders, and any defender that comes into my court so that they're heard and are able to present their best defense.
Thank you so much. We have another response, and then we have 1, 2. There you go. Go for it.
My name is Michael Berg. I'm running for seat 137 at Superior Court. As a defense attorney, I've represented innocent people. And I can tell you now, those are the most stressful cases for me. And I'm very happy that I never lost one of those cases. But usually, the reason why they have to go to trial or go forward is because we don't have a prosecutor who's willing to listen or care. That's what usually, it's usually starts off with a bad police investigation and a prosecutor who doesn't care. And that's, at least from my experience, that's how it usually happens.
Once again, I'm Judge Deborah Archuleta. When I was elected to the Superior Court, I had to take off the prosecutorial blinders that you are discussing. And when I had to put on the black robe of justice, I had to make sure that everyone's constitutional rights in the room were being upheld, including the defendant. I had to scrupulously maintain the dignity of the court and make sure that your brother's rights would have been scrupulously maintained and upheld in my courtroom. Because as we know from Dr. Martin Luther King, an injustice anywhere creates an injustice everywhere. And when I'm elected, that will be my goal.
Thank you for your question. Now, ordinarily, I'm not in the business of defending Mr. Gascon, but I gotta tell you, the conviction integrity unit of which you speak about is very important to him. It is a priority for him, and I agree with that priority. As prosecutors, we have to always be willing to review our work to make sure that we got it right. But in this county, because of the understaffing, we only have 2 DAs who are assigned to prosecute hate crimes in the entire county of Los Angeles. So we have staffing problems.
Thank you so much. There any other responses to that question? I have no question. Yes, indeed. Go right ahead.
Representative George Gascon, you said?
No, that's right. I'm running against it.
You're on board.
I'm just running folks.
They're all running against him.
Yeah, thank you.
Someone worked for him, but we weren't here.
For the sake of time, thank you, brother. Do you have a question for him?
Yeah, you guys running folks. I'm from the 7th district, Plymouth. And, my question is that you guys trying to hold up the law in the city of Los Angeles. My problem is people cooking on our sidewalks, which we are taxpayers pay for, but we can't push our kids down the sidewalk because y'all allow, not y'all, but you allow people to cook on the sidewalk when we can't even push our kids in the stroller down the sidewalk. We have to go on the streets.
That's right.
What are y'all gonna do about that?
So the question is, what are you gonna do about cooking on the sidewalk? Is that correct? As well as all this.
People that's not even from this country cooking on the sidewalks, and we can't walk on the sidewalk that we pay taxes for.
Understood. Let me just lay this down again. Appreciate your fervor and your candor, brother. So that everyone is heard, if you can keep that solid question, and then, of course, you who want to respond to it can respond to it. Is that fair? Yes. All right, so we had a question here, question here, question here. Yes, who's up next? Go for it. You got it.
I feel your pain. The homeless people have taken over the streets. You cannot walk your child to school. You cannot push the stroller. You have to walk into the street. People cannot conduct businesses properly because sadly, we have our fellow citizens living in this squalor on the streets. These homeless individuals sadly are addicted to drugs. They're committing crimes. They need to be forced into drug treatment programs. Our mentally ill brothers and sisters need to be forced into mental health treatment. And if they're committing crimes, they need to be taken into account.
Thank you so much. Is there another response to this question? Another response? If not, we'll move on to the next question. One more time.
But I can I take a presidential liberty?
Go right ahead.
What I don't want this to be about is that, let's be very clear why people are homeless. You know, and I like for us to not get into the developing narratives and talk about the data. The data suggests that only 1/3 of the unhoused population have mental health issues. The rising majority of the people who are homeless, that are houseless, they are the working poor. We have teachers who are houseless, 56,000 students who attend universities in this city, in this state, are unhoused. So let's please be very clear about what we're talking about. That's all I just felt.
You are the president, so we yield to you. Thank you.
I know that wasn't his question. I understand what his question is. I understand what his, yeah, I understand what his question is, but I think what we have to be is fair.
Appreciate it.
I think we have to be fair.
Thank you, thank you. So we had a response, and we would, if we, because we want to make sure that we're on a short time, we hear from, I see Brad has a hand raised, Maria has a question in the back, so we'll hear from you, and then we'll go to your question, okay? Go right ahead.
Yes, the only reason I didn't respond is 'cause I felt like I was talking too much, but I'm Dan Kapelovitz, and yes, I agree, we gotta prevent homelessness in the first place. And you're correct, most people, a lot of people are with the working poor. And first of all, we gotta make rent control stronger. It's not strong. I talked to someone today saying it's 6% increase in rent here every year. It just happened. And they're gonna force people out of their homes. We got to, and if there get stronger laws, and then we need to prosecute landlords who violate these laws. Now, they'd probably be charged as misdemeanors, so it might not be the DA, it might be the city attorney, but we gotta fight for people to stay in their homes.
Thank you. There was a bit of clarification as well with regard specifically to vendors who cook on the sidewalk.
They're not.
So that was the clarification. Okay?
Yeah.
So we'll put that out to you again, and those points, and certainly we appreciate you expressing them. Any thoughts on vendors cooking on the sidewalk? Is that correct? And then after that clarification, we'll go. I'm sorry.
Can I clear that up?
Can you do it precisely?
You know, I'm not being discriminating.
Okay.
I'm just saying, you know, it's not right for a taxpayer to pay for things that they should have the right to walk down the sidewalk, but we can't. Because the vendors are blocking the sidewalk. And I'm not being discriminating or being prejudiced. I know they got the earn a living. But walking down the sidewalk, we pay taxes to do that.
Understood.
Mothers
Appreciate
have to push their shoulders down the sidewalk, but they can't. They gotta push their kids in the street. I think that's wrong. Something should be done about it. And you guys run for office, should pay attention to that.
Thank you, sir.
Respond to that, since I spoke up earlier.
Yes, go right ahead.
The city of Los Angeles allows the street vendors with appropriate permitting and licensing. They are not committing any crimes. This is allowable under the city laws. So I know it's inconvenient and I understand how you feel, but the city is allowing this type of vending to go on with appropriate permits, just so you know. But it's not a crime.
Crossed off back and forth, so the questions, the audience in general, if you pose the questions, they're gonna respond. Further dialogue will be outside of the venue. Can we do that? We're gonna keep it DC in Florida. Thank you. Go right ahead.
This is where common sense needs to enter into the discussion. You go up next to the 210 freeway, there are huge businesses. There's the Home Depot. Our public officials need to negotiate with these properties. How many parking spaces proximate to the street can you allow street vendors to use so that we can clear the sidewalks for people to go back and forth on? There are easy common sense solutions, sir, that can solve the problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your response. Is there another response to the question? If not, we're gonna go straight to Maria's question. Okay, seeing that there's none, Maria, feel free to ask your question.
Thank you for being here. Questions for the Congressman Sir as well. What are your thoughts on reentry people getting out and being able to get a job? Someone that was in jail 10, 15 years, did hair in there, was a cook in there, but they get out and say, I'm a good cook. I cook for 6,000 people a day and try to go to systems, and nobody will help him or her. What kind of certificate or something can they get when they get out so they can get a job, Congress?
I mean, first of all, I agree with you in principle. Everyone who serves their time and pays their debt to society should have every opportunity to rejoin society and command an income. And you're right, there's a bunch of bias out there in hiring, and so folks are gonna have a real tough time. I would imagine the Congress would support legislation in order to address it. I'm not aware of any offhand that would create a specific certificate program now, so I'm sorry, I don't have that offhand.
Thank you. We had two, I'm not sure what it was, one, okay, go right ahead, 1 and 2, go right ahead.
Seat 115. So I talked earlier about how I believe in empowerment and empowerment through opportunities. As I've been running for office, I've had the pleasure of getting in contact with a group called Second Call, which is exactly what they do. They help people who have been in prison, who are on parole, on probation, and they help them get union certification for electrician, plumber, and things. And they would like to expand not only countywide, but area-wide. And she can expand on it.
Chair Ransom seat 97, I've been going to these meetings with Christmas, so I'm gonna finish what she said. They can get electors, they can get certificates to get jobs. They can have a felony record on their record and they get these jobs. And I really like the program. I didn't know about it. Please fire second call, Skip Townsend, reach out to him. But also we do diversion. So when a person completes diversion, their record is sealed. So they can get jobs and benefits. It's like it never happened. So we do that a lot in the mental health court.
Thank you.
Can you direct that to the DA candidates? Because the DA's office that weighs in on whether a person who got a farmer's license or another license can get it back from the state.
Appreciate the question. In fairness to the group, so we're not falling out of order or anything. All the candidates here, you are welcome to respond to these questions if it relates to it. So she had the floor, so we're gonna hear from her and then so forth, all right? Appreciate the question.
The alternative sentencing collaborative court. When individuals come into that court, they're veterans, people who are homeless, people suffering from mental illness, victim of sex trafficking, young people who are in the foster care program. In that particular court, before they're released off probation, it's our responsibility to find them a job, to get them training, and to find them housing. When the judge gets involved in orders that the program find these resources, then they are found.
Specifically, as a judge and working on Skid Row, Amity Foundation, Anti-Recidivist Coalition, Chrysalis, downtown on Main Street. These are all well-established organizations that if you have a criminal record, I direct the men and women that need to get their services. They are responsible for helping them get jobs and they succeed.
Thank you.
I'm Dan Kapelovitz, and yes, for new cases, we gotta do diversion programs, alternative sentencing. So people, when they do whatever they are supposed to do as part of the diversion, don't have a record. Now, people that have been in prison, we gotta do something so that they don't have a record, so they can get jobs. Because a lot of jobs, they do background checks and you can't get a job. So we need to do pardons. People in federal court, they do post-prison pardons. And we need to do things like that so you don't have a criminal record and can get a job.
Thank you so much.
I'll just say briefly, in general, we have to do more to help people coming out of our carceral institutions rejoin society. If we expect them to be successful, we got to do that. Now, when it comes to their criminal histories, there's a bit of a rub because there are some jobs that are sensitive. There are some jobs that hire people to be around children. There are some jobs that allow people into private residences. And so for those kinds of jobs, those employers really need to know who they're going to be giving access to. So in general, I think we have to do it where we can. The building trades is an excellent place to do it, but then there are some sensitive jobs where I think we probably should allow the employer to know. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your responses. We're running up on the last 2-3 minutes. I'm going to yield to the president. And then did you have a question? We're almost done.
And this is for all of you judges. One of the things that's important, you are familiar with critical race theory by Derek Bell. And what he talks about, what critical race theory talks about, is the fact that race is evidence in a trial. I would argue, young lady, that the reason that your brother who was innocent was found convicted is because when you are Black or brown, your word is not taken as true. When you are white, your word is. This is a fact. This is evidence. And if you watch what is happening right now in real time with Fannie Willis, the DA, what you find is in order to determine the truthfulness of a witness, this happens in court, they tear them down, typically when they're Black. But when they're white, it's taken as the truth. This is what critical race theory is about. And so what I want to know is, what strategies are you going to use There's a reason that we are disproportionately represented. And it is because when we say something, if we are Black, if we are brown, it's taken as if it's not true. And I can count case after case after case after case. And so what I want to know is, number one, have you wrestled with the reality or the concept of critical race theory? Do you understand it? And if you do, what do you intend to do to make sure that this does not continue to happen to Black folks?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're gonna use this final question to really wrap up our time. So I would invite each of you who are able or wish to respond to it to do that, and so aptly put. So if you are ready, let me know by hand and you can speak to it. And then after that, we'll close out our time. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Sharon Ransom again, running in C97, and I think we need diversity on the bench, people that understand us. I'm from the community, born and raised, and so we have judges that don't understand how Black people talk or how we think or how we act. And by being more diverse, we have people that have experienced that. They know, like, when a Black person says, oh, I viewed him for a minute, it's longer than a minute. So you gotta know the language that we use. You gotta be able to connect with them, treat them with respect, and take everybody for their, what they bring.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Here and then here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, go right ahead. Oh, you know what? I'm just responding to people when they're ready. So let's go. Yes.
I've spent 35 years in a courtroom as a deputy district attorney and as a superior court judge. I never felt once that I wasn't taken seriously because of the color of my skin or my surname. I have been confused to be the Spanish interpreter on occasion. Also, I can't speak for Mr. McKinney, but he's highly regarded in our office as well. And I have never had the experience of not being found to be credible or truthful or honest or taken seriously.
That's not the question. That's not that. We're not talking about professionals. We're talking about as defendants. We're talking about people who are being tried. You have law degrees. That says something. So we're talking about the people who will come to your court, the people who are on trial.
You mean the people that I have been dealing with for the last 35 years, both as a prosecutor and as a judge? I share a common experience with them. I share that common experience. Part of this discussion has been about Black and brown people. I'm one of those people. I have that shared experience, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who'd like to respond next? And it was suggested, I think it might be helpful, just go all the way down. I yield. So who's ready over here?
Christmas.
Thank you.
Hi, Christmas Brookings, seat 115. I know exactly the question you asked, but if you don't mind, I want to expand it. I have seen it, I have experienced it. I've seen it not only to people who are accused of a crime, but people who are victims, because I used to work in sex crime, human trafficking, and 90% of my victims were African-American females. And I am constantly told how they cannot be trusted. Their word is no good. They asked for it, they started it because that's how they're perceived. But as someone who was a runaway, who almost lived on the streets myself and almost ended up in that type of situation, I have learned that you need to step back and call people on that, and that's what I will do as a judge.
Thank you. Thank you. Who's up next? Okay, all right, let's go.
And I have the same shared experience that Christmas had with victims. I prosecute sex crimes. And a lot of the kids that come into my court are going to be Black and brown. And we have the same issue. They're foster kids. Oh, they're running away, they're lying, all of that stuff. But we also have new laws now for jury selection. And they're very strict because Black and brown people have been excluded systematically from being on juries. And now we have stricter law for that. And the judge is the one that rules. The judge has a duty now to say, you remove that person improperly. That's on the judge.
One day I'm a deputy district attorney. I went into court with my hair braided. You just saw the way that judge looked at me, and he had seen me with my hair unbraided. The implicit and the explicit biases that the judges have on the bench, whether they realize that they have them or not, directly affects how Black people are treated in court. When you are Black, when you have been the subject of that, and if I get to sit on the bench, that will not happen in Ms. Huerta's court.
Thank you so much. Okay, any others to respond? Go right ahead.
Obviously, critical race theory isn't a theory. It is fact.
Yes.
Okay? Given what my daughter does, judges on the bench, all the prosecutors in the district attorney's office, they need to be educated over and over again about the implicit and explicit bias. And we can track the numbers to see if it's working. Because you can look at the sentence that a Black person receives and compare it to a white person. And if there is a difference, something isn't happening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. If you would, we're almost done. Please hold your applause, and then at the end, we'll give them all a round of applause. That's all right. We want to be fair across the board.
All right, thank you. So I actually teach at a law school. I teach criminal procedure. And one thing I make everyone read at the end of the class is an article by a critical race theory professor from UCLA called Devin, his name is Devin Carbado. And I just had to look up the exact wording. It's called From Stopping Black People to Killing Black People, the Fourth Amendment Pathways to Police Violence. And it talks about how the Fourth Amendment does not protect Black people. They can use race as a reason to stop someone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I can talk afterwards if anybody.
You're all welcome to hang out afterwards. Go right ahead.
Pastor, I learned civil rights at law school from Kimberly Crenshaw, right, who worked with Dr. Bell in developing the theory. And I think it really boils down to what Ms. Huerta said. A lot of this is implicit, explicit bias, prejudices that people bring into the system, and why it's so important to have district attorneys who are true to the evidence in the case. As a DA, I've always been skeptical of what people say. I want to see some evidence of it to corroborate it.
Thank you so much. Any other responses to the question? Go right ahead.
I'm Stephen Mack. It's so hard for me to understand why we all in this world look for differences. Look for differences to mistrust. Serving around the world, people find differences even within groups who you think are the same to hurt each other. And the first step to recognizing, finding truth in those situations is to know that that exists in our human condition. And that's what I would know, what represent in my courtroom, knowing that that is a danger and anytime evidence is presented in my court.
Thank you. Your final response? All right. If there's no other responses, if we could, let's give all the candidates a round of applause.
So before you leave, we want to make sure we're going to pass something around for you to put your name and what you are running for. What I'm going to do is we're going to let you all leave once you write that, and then we are going to